So today we're taking a look at 9.1, Introduction to Sequences. So chapter 9 is going to be looking at some material that is not necessarily new, but we're going to be looking at it in a new perspective. And that's going to be the perspective of looking at the patterns between numbers. So we've dealt with patterns between numbers when looking at linear functions and quadratic functions and cubic functions and exponential functions. But now we're going to be looking at it in just this terms of sequences and not necessarily something that we're going to be graphing and applying to like these real world example problems and things like that. So some of the things we go through, finding patterns between numbers, is going to seem familiar, but we're going to be again looking at it in a little bit of a different perspective. Which is why Chapter 9 is all about sequences and series, and so 9.1 is just to give you that introduction. So, first thing we need to talk about is what's called recursive formulas. Now, normally I do a pretty elaborate activity to introduce sequences and series, but due to the circumstances this year, we're going to kind of just dive right in. But please make sure that you ask me questions if you have them, send me an email, make a post on Google Classroom, something of that nature, and we can definitely have those discussions and get all your questions answered. So a recursive formula is where one or more previous terms are used to generate the next term. So a sequence is just a list of numbers, and the numbers are linked together with some sort of pattern or math that's allowing you to get from one number to the next. So I have an example of a sequence here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. We can clearly see that to get from 2 to 4, we are jumping up 2 units. To get from 4 to 6, we're jumping up another 2. And then we go up another 2. And then we go up another 2. And then we go up another 2. So you can see that we're adding 2 every time to get from one number to the next. Well, to represent this pattern of adding 2 every time, we can write what's called a recursive formula for this sequence. Now, in this chapter, we're going to be using the letters A and N a lot, and with subscripts. So let's kind of just jump right in. So we're going to say A sub N. So what this subscript of N here, is just letting me know what term number I could be looking for. And the letter A with this subscript N, and it's a lowercase a, this just means that we're dealing with the sequence. We're not dealing with the function or an equation or any of that part of algebra. We're dealing with a sequence. And that's denoted using then the lowercase letter a with this subscript of N. So A sub N equals. Now, we can write out this in words if we want to first, and maybe I'll do that a little bit above. So if we want to find our new term, or a new number, or our next number, that's what I'll write. I'll write next number. So to find our next term, or our next value in this list of numbers, if I wanted to figure out what came after 12, I'd have to take the previous number, or the previous term, and I'd have to add 2. So if I wrote it out in words, this is what it would look like. Next term equals previous number, add 2, or we could say plus 2. Well, the way we represent next term is using this A subscript N minus 1. That means the same thing, next term. The way we represent previous term is to use A subscript, but instead of N, we're going to use N minus 1. So previous number or previous term is represented just like the next term, but it's with this subscript of N minus 1. And then plus 2, well, we know how to write plus 2 mathematically. We've been doing that for a while. We do our addition sign and then 2. So this is an example of a recursive formula. So we're going to be dealing a lot with these in 9.1. And so what it is it's a formula, it's a way of writing the pattern of how we're getting from one number to the next, but just a little bit more mathematically. We might want to clarify here as well, because I know that this is pretty new information, that n is referring to a term number. It's referring to a term number or your place or your order in this sequence. So in other words, this value of 2 here that's written first, that is when n is equal to 1. We get this value of 2. My second number in this list, my second term place, is 4. So when n equals 2, I get a value of 4. So that n is, think of it as like running a race, and it's, the order in which you finish the race. First place, second place, third place, fourth place, fifth place, so on and so forth. It's the order in which the numbers are written. So when n equals 1, we're referring to our first number written. When n equals 2, we're referring to our second number written. If n was 5, we would be looking at what is the fifth number in this list of values. So I know that this is, this way of writing it is very different from what we've done in past lessons, but it's just another way of approaching it, and really right now what we're trying to focus on is just getting used to this. It's very new, so it's going to seem abstract, but the more that you do them, the easier that it's going to get.